Hi, I am Chris Word,
I'm Terrell Turner.
and this is Business Talk Library.
All right, and today we are talking about the end of the year is here and what should you be thinking about for your employees. Now, whether you are a manager that has people working for you or whether you are a business owner that has employees in your business, like the end of the year is here. What should you be thinking about for your employees? So let's jump into that awesome topic.
So I'm just going to be a man of the people. And let's say it this way. You worked all year, hard, long hours, you put in time, you came in when you didn't want to, you stayed longer than you wanted to, you dealt with everything at work, and now it's the end of the year. What would you, or what would we, or what would they expect at the end of the year? The first thing that comes to my mind is appreciation, recognition, acknowledgement. Those are just three words that are jumping off that's on my mind. And the reason for that is you want to acknowledge all the hard work that they've done. You are where you are as a business because of your employees. They're your number one asset. So as a man of the people, what you got for me?
So I guess so. If you're being the man of the people, I guess that what makes me
The man.
The man. All right. So, let me try to be the man then in this one. I guess I'll play devil's advocate on this one. All right. When I'm thinking about the end of the year, as looking from the business owner perspective, I do think that there are a couple administrative things you need to get to, and we can get to those later. But for first thing I would say is you want to understand not only the performance of your business, but the performance of the people in the business. It's just like, hey, I mean, it helps much more if you actually set, targets or expectations for them.
Yes.
Now, if you haven't laid out expectations for the people in your business, that's on you. I mean, like, there's no way for you to really evaluate them.
Yes.
Well, there's no way for you to evaluate them fairly.
Yes.
Now, I do think now if you've laid out expectations, and not like you've laid out like sort of expectations, but if you laid out expectations to your team, I think it is time to have those performance conversations.
Yes.
See, okay, all right. What did you do this year? How did it measure up to what the expectations were?
Okay.
Now, in that, I do think that you do have to be prepared for some conversations that may not be as, I guess you'd say, as pleasant to have.
Yes.
Because, I mean, I've been on that side of where, hey, it was time for a performance review for myself, and I didn't live up to the expectations that were set. And so, hey, the conversation didn't go so well.
Because I don't believe anyone ever comes into a performance review like, man, I sucked this year. I think everyone comes in saying, no matter what wrong they've done throughout the year, I'm here at the end of the year and I expect to be recognized for my hard work. Now, I'm not saying that they believe they were a rock star, but I also don't believe that anyone comes into a performance review conversation knowing that they sucked and expecting to hear that they sucked as well. And suck may be a bad word, but I'm just saying that when you rank it, you have those that are rock stars and you have those that just didn't perform. And I don't believe that anyone expects to hear that they didn't perform.
And I think that's a tough one because, I mean, when you have to have that conversation with someone, now, like I said, again, and I will reiterate this a number of times, if you have actually set expectations for them. Now, this is the huge caveat. If you work for someone or you are an employer or you're a small business owner, if you have not set expectations for them, what I'm about to say probably doesn't necessarily apply to you. But I do think that if you have set expectations and a person isn't living up to those expectations, like, it is your responsibility to have that uncomfortable conversation or to, hey, let's just be real about this. Now, you still want to be respectful. I don't think anyone does. I don't care what a person's performance has been. No one should be disrespected. But I do think that you owe it to them to be honest about, hey, this is the assessment of your performance.
Yes, and I believe that it's necessary. So let me not say that. But I will say again, as the man of the people, when you come to the end of the year and you think, I worked hard, I don't like my boss, I so about the boss, so about the company, like you have that range of emotions about all of them. Sometimes people just care about getting a paycheck and providing a way of life for their family, and that's it. Then you have those that are rock stars and they want to excel and just blow through all the expectations and metrics that are set. So you're going to have your wide range. I think the hardest conversations are those people who are on that middle between rock star and so or average and poor performer. Those people that are at that line are going to be the most difficult conversations. Some people you'll say, you had a decent year, and they'll say, yeah, I could do better. And you're like, all right, we're on the same page. Those that are rock stars, you're like, man, you killed it. And they're like, thank you. I'm glad to hear you say that, because you probably have been saying it all throughout the year at this point, so they know where they stand. It's the people who are really average, who believe they killed it, and you got to be like, I don't think so, because they're going to want to know proof as to why, and then it becomes very critical how you word it, how you phrase it, because it becomes now personal.
Yes.
Because I believe that I did this, or you're not giving it to me because you like so and so, or you're not giving it to me because you don't like me. And it's not, maybe it is, maybe it's not down at that level. But as a man of the people, the performance review really sets out that emotional feeling that I'm going to take into next year, whether it's positive, whether it's neutral, or it's negative. It's great to have that conversation, but that's going to set my emotion for that next year.
And I think that the from a business owner or from a manager perspective, having that performance review is very, very critical, because I think it's going to give you an idea of, hey, what you as a leader are going to need to do to help your person or people get to the next, next target or next achievement point or the next level of performance, whatever it is that you guys come to agree on. Because I think that now you may be thinking like, oh, this person can be, the next leader in the organization or next manager. If they don't want to do that, then you don't have an agreement.
Right.
I think that you have that conversation and say, all right, this is what we expected of you. This is what you actually did. And then you honestly, get that feedback on, hey, getting a feel for where they want to go next. And then you can start to think about, okay, what's the plan to help them develop to get there next?
Exactly. Because in that conversation is going to be, this is what you did this year, what are your goals, how can we better align for next year? And that really provides that environment of, I want to stay here because my manager is tied into what I want to do. They know that. They've been supporting that. They think I can get there. And so that helps that conversation as well. So we talked about the performance review. All right, we got that out the way. What you got for me?
One of the things that I personally struggle with is taking time off to relax.
Oh, I'm talking about money. Let's get back to the man of the people. You gave me my performance review. What are we talking about in terms of money? Because it's the end of the year. I got bills. I got kids. And is that an option? Is that a possibility? It would go well to make me really feel like I really like this place.
I think when it comes down to whether that's year-end bonuses or year-end incentive plans, is you have to have a plan about it. And I think you got to be upfront about, hey, this is what we will pay out. These are the targets that need to be met to pay out. Now, Again, I think, like I said, it makes your job a lot easier if you have set the expectations. Now, If you haven't set the expectations, probably going to struggle through that conversation.
Yes.
Because naturally, the person who's doing the work is going to come in and be like, hey, you know what, I remember all the times I was, late to pick my kids up because I was working late.
Yes.
Or, hey, those times I really didn't want to get up and come in. And so I feel like I deserve something extra.
Right.
Now,
exactly.
The man, on the other hand, may feel like, well, I know all the stuff that didn't get done.
Right.
I don't think you deserve anything.
And that's that balance and that needs to happen is because the man is looking at it from a cost saving side, and the people are looking at it from a, well, I helped you get all this other money side, and I know how much money we're making and how big we are. But to your point, if you don't set out clear metrics to be followed, then it becomes subjective as to why we didn't get it. Is it because we didn't meet our number as a company as a whole? Is it because you don't like me? Is it because that you just personally determined that you don't want to do it? And then how fair is that? Is that a place that I want to stay in? But if you set those clear objectives, then everyone knows what's the goal, and we all gonna work our butts off to meet it. Because we all want that carried at the end of the year. Like we're getting our salaries, but just that extra helps out as well.
No, I agree. And I would say, contrary to popular belief, I am a very generous person. When it comes, for me personally, I am a fan of really expressing that appreciation. And when it comes down to giving extra money, I don't have an issue with it. I mean, as long as it's not putting, I guess, the business in a, I guess you say, a negative situation. Like if you can, I guess, if we can make room for it, and I mean literally, there are times where we do have to have those tough conversations to say, hey, you know what? Hey, leadership team, this is what we want to do. Maybe the leadership team, we take half of our bonus so that the rest of the company or the rest of the people in the organization can get their full bonus. To where those are some of those conversations that I think you have to be able to have with your leadership team, and that awareness about your team. But like I said, I think it really does go back to that expectation has to be set. Now, when that expectation is set, I think you also have to play that, I guess, a weighing in, okay, when the goals were not met because of something that was outside of the people's control.
Yes.
That one, I think, is a tough one that I think you really have to really, really think through in a very, because it's not an easy way to fix that one.
Right, but it should be tied into the overall projective or objective. So let's say we're setting out performance metrics. Now everyone has this pool of money that can be allotted for the bonus, whatever that number is and how many ever people they are, doesn't matter. But this pool of money becomes attainable if the company meets X objective. Now, maybe 50% is quote unquote guaranteed if you meet your objectives or your team objectives or whatever those were set out, and then the other 50 becomes attainable if and when the company meets its objectives or goals or targets. And that way, everyone knows that. If you can support that in any way, you will. If you can, you're definitely going to work on your 50%, but then you're going to be as interested in the overall company's performance so you can get your other 50%. So tying that into both sides as well. But I do think that it's important. Like everyone knows money talks. Like it's just, it's the language. So if you want people to perform, pay them. You want people to work harder, tie it to money some way, and they will work harder. You have to be able to tie that in and then make it real so people know what they're working for, and they're just not waiting for a hope at the end of the tunnel that may or may not come.
Yeah, and I would say, I mean, even for myself, in different roles that I've had in the past where I'm talking with, I guess I was responsible for the metrics on the bonus plan, is really taking time with my employees throughout the year to explain, like, hey, this is how your bonus gets paid out. These are the things you could be doing now to help you make sure that, hey, you're in the best position to get that. And I think that, you can have those conversations, like I say, throughout the year, or if you can have those conversations and give them the heads up on that, I think that definitely helps kind of prepare you for both parties to have a level head when they come into that discussion about, hey, what about my raise? What about my bonus? Because like you said, money talks. and people perform
Yes.
for, I mean, nobody just shows up to work just because they love the job. I don't care who it is.
Yes.
Even the owner of the company doesn't just show up just because they love it.
Right.
They show up because there is compensation involved.
Right, exactly. And that's what's driving everyone's behavior. That compensation drives behavior. And the appreciation, the acknowledgement are things that go to support it and make me feel emotionally tied in. But if you want to drive behavior, you got to tie it to money. It's just been what I've seen and my experience. It may be different based on other factors. But let's go to, so we talked about performance reviews, we talked about money. Now everybody's tired of the work environment. We all come into work, we all see each other in the queues.
Before we get to that one, I think there's another element to the money. I think benefits are becoming a much bigger conversation because a lot of companies, I mean, when you get close to the year end, it's time for people to do their open enrollment, sign up for their benefits and stuff like that. I mean, I think that one is because it's becoming a bigger, especially when it comes down to like whether it's healthcare or whether it's 401k plans. I mean, I think as a business owner, one of the things you should be considering is talking with a professional about whether it's setting up a 401k plan or just there are different strategies there that you can do. And I think also just with, some of the compensation is just giving your employees options to, I guess you say, giving them the opportunity to earn ownership in whatever the organization is, if that's possible for you. Because I think those are things that you should be thinking about, like, hey, how do we build this into, the total compensation package? Because there are a lot of people who do leave jobs because, hey, the benefits don't give them what they need.
Right, exactly. And that goes to knowing who's best suited as a role for your company. And I'll explain that. I was at a consulting firm, and in that consulting firm, they made money off of staffing people to other businesses based on expertise and counting at that point. But they made more money if the person was willing to travel and willing to work long hours. So that need was special for young adults right out of school or right out of public accounting. And the more and more they maximized on that kind of target range of employees, the more they were able to put them on these projects that required them to work from dusk to dawn, all day long. Go home, take a nap, come back, let's keep working. But if they got more employees outside of that trend, then they were looking at families and they were looking at people that were starting to grow their personal lives. And that competed with the need to get people to work as long as they can so that we can maximize the hours. I say that because if you look around at your employee base and what's necessary or what's your target to make sure that you're keeping your work going and what you need, then it becomes important to know what benefits you need to offer. Is it important to bring a daycare in-house so that people feel comfortable working and their families are close? Is that an issue? Or offering transit assistance because a lot of our people are commuting to work and parking just makes it unreasonable for our employees to live outside of the city and work in the city. So looking around at your employee base will help determine what benefits you should offer and what it will do to make sure your employees are happy at this workplace.
And I think that can be a challenge for people who are owning a business or people who work in a business. I mean, because if you've never been, I guess you say, high enough, or you've never worked in a small enough business to where you actually had to deal with that, like really looking to see, hey, what new benefits should we offer this year?
Right.
And I think, as a business owner, you may not want to really spend your time thinking about that, but I think it is a critical part about keeping quality people on your team is you got to take a step back and say, hey, you know what do people want? Like, I mean,
exactly.
In Charlotte, North Carolina, one of the things that becomes very popular in the benefit package, I mean, it doesn't personally apply to me, but I see it in a lot of benefit packages, are pet assistance. Like, to where that becomes an important thing for people, where they're like, hey, I feel like a pet is a child in my family.
Right.
Like, what benefits do you offer for my pet? Now, as a business owner, you may be thinking like, I don't offer anything
Right.
for your pet.
Right. That's a personal decision.
But also, if whatever market you're in, it's just like,
Exactly.
hey, if that's what the market is demanding, like, hey, you may have to actually look at that.
Yeah, and then you can take that time as well to be progressive as to what could you offer that will make your job or your company more attractive. You're opening your roles to millennials. What will millennials like?
Mm-hmm.
Wi-Fi. They don't necessarily like the cubicle. They
Mm-hmm.
may more like an open space where they can put their feet up, or couches, or area or common areas that they can sit and work at that's more flexible. Maybe that works best for them. Maybe working at home or being a little more flexible on being in the office
Mm-hmm.
works better. So looking at other opportunities and being crazy in the idea
Yeah.
could be a benefit as well as you look out to the progressive and the next generation and the whole tech savvy and millennials.
And now to the point of
It's time to party. What you
now,
got?
personally, I will say, I'll be honest, I'm not one that takes a lot of breaks. Even when Chris and I and our spouses, when we travel, I'm probably going to be doing some type of work even on the trip or on the vacation. Like we went to Europe last. Well, no, I don't think I worked when I was in Europe. I think that was one. No, I did do some stuff. I had a pen and pad. I did do some work. When we went to Mexico, when we went to Jamaica, I did work there. So I'm not a person who really takes a lot of time off. So it is a challenge for me to kind of disconnect.
But man of the people, here we go. I worked all year. I looked at your faces all year in the cubes. We then sat in conference rooms and been in meetings that went nowhere at the same time. Can we get out of this office and get to know each other? Can we at least be able to get together and have a drink or maybe dinner or even a holiday party? What you got?
I think that it is, well, I will say, in working in business, I think that it is very necessary because I have come to understand that not everybody is like me. Not everybody can be fine with, working and like, as long as my check keeps showing up, I really don't need your personal appreciation. Just make sure my check keeps showing up. Well, not everybody's like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I think that as a business owner or as a manager, as a leader, that's something that you have to develop. And I think that it becomes interesting because for you to get to that place of having a successful business, or you get to that place of, being that very successful leader, a lot of times those were the things you sacrificed to get there. So it's like when you talk to like entrepreneurs or business owners who develop a strong business, like they missed a lot of the holiday events because they were building the business. So when it's time, like now you have employees, it becomes a real challenge for them to kind of switch gears. They're like, I'm not used to like taking time off because I've been building for so long.
Yeah, but we're not saying let's all do a company trip for a week and we got to shut down. I'm just saying a 3 or 4 hour happy hour or dinner on a Saturday where we can all get to know each other, meet each other's spouses or families if the budget allows, so that we can feel like we have a common place, like we're actually developing a culture of family, quote unquote family, so that when you get in those environments, those intense meetings, those conference calls, or those, what do you call it, Perry dogging in the office where you're on your screen, but somebody can look up and see your screen and always over someone's shoulder. You feel like this is a coworker / friend and not always coworker. Like
Gotcha.
you get to know people and you can relate in a way.
So what do you do in situations where you have environments where you got employees, they don't want to know each other? Like,
And that may be the case, but as I believe as a business, speaking on behalf of the people, if you offer the opportunity to say, hey, as a business, we're going to celebrate this year. We want to show our appreciation and have a short happy hour. We're making it mandatory / required that you come out at least for an hour to get to know each other. I think it goes a long way to show the culture that you're trying to develop, and not when you come to work, you just work. Don't talk to anybody, you just work. Because we laugh at work. Well, let me say it this way. To do that goes to show it's a culture where everyone's laughing and getting to know each other, and we're talking, and then we work. Whereas when you come to work, I don't want to hear any laughter. Like we're just working. What are you doing? You're making too much noise. You just work. You shouldn't be on your phone. You just work. Like if you're creating that culture, then it's going to become very rigid, very aggressive, very intimidating, and people may not feel comfortable expressing themselves or being themselves, and they may go and look for a company where it's more relaxed, because that's what you're going to be competing with now. Or all the relaxed companies come to work in jeans and flip flops and bring your dog, and we're just going to relax and work. So it's the environment is changing. So I'm asking the man.
I mean, I think, like I said, I hear that, and I think that it is great to do it. I think but I think about like some instances where the environment where you have people like they really don't like spending time around their coworkers. So it's like what you're saying, like, okay, hey, we're gonna have this 2 to 3 hour mandatory happy hour. It's like, do they feel like, hey, this is just another part of the job? Why do I need to participate? So it's like, what do you do in a situation like that?
Okay, then as a man of the people, does that work for that environment? Is that healthy for your business? If you have a business where people don't like spending time with each other, is that healthy? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know well, I would say depends on the type of business, because I think, in different businesses, people are there for different reasons. Like, for example, when I talk to people who have worked in the more intense financial sector, whether that be like trading, or whether that is, I guess, with some of the investment bankers where they say they work crazy hours. And I've talked to some of them and they said, you know what, I prefer not to deal with people I work with. And even when I've talked to people in the public sector, like, when I talk to people in social work, they're like, you know what, when I go to work, I like to close my door because I really don't like the people I work with. And it's just like, hey, it gets a bit messy, because when you get to those holiday parties, we've all seen the stories that come out of the holiday parties. It's just like, okay, how do you manage that? Like,
so I'll make the story more real. Growing up, there was always those family or relatives that didn't get along. But that didn't mean we didn't all plan to get together at the Thanksgiving or the holiday dinner or the Christmas Eve dinner. It was still on the list. You just knew, we know who to watch. We just know who to keep our eye on, because we know until you don't get along with him, at some point it's going to pop off, and I'm going to be sitting here, I'm here for it. So it's not to say that you shouldn't have those things, because that once in a year or annual event does go to support the atmosphere, the culture, the appreciation to the people. However, you may have those situations that pop up. We had them growing up. We had friends that didn't get along, but we still hung out. You always knew a situation may or may not happen, but did that stop you from showing up? No, because it's still more important to show the appreciation. Or let me say it this way. We still want to party, but we know that so-and-so over here may act up. But that's okay, because we see it coming.
No, I think that's fair. Because, I mean, in different environments where I've seen where company goes out, they spend thousands and thousands of dollars to have food and, the drinks and this nice venue for an event, and then let's say 5% of the people show up.
Well, if you're saying 5%, then I think you'd be aware of that before you start spending all the money. Like, you'd be sending out RSVPs, and if you felt like it was that or that the turnout was going to be that low, then I would say don't go to that level of detail. It may need to be something smaller as you start to develop that exposure or get people in the mood to see each other. But I believe that it's important that you have that event, because you do want to show that acknowledgement, that recognition for all the hard work of the year. And it may have been good, it may have been bad. And I would say it this way. Sometimes you come to the office and you know you don't get along with that person. You know they get on your nerves. You just hoping that they say one more thing to you, because if they do, then you're going to have to show them who you really are. it happens. Like we all know those people at work that we just don't get along with for whatever reason, and we're all from different backgrounds. But that holiday event sets aside, or that annual event sets aside time to put aside the differences, put aside the emails, put aside the work conversations and the reasons why, and let's at least agree or come together and talk about that moment, or at least get over it, or at least put aside of it and get to know each other outside of work, so that maybe next year we can be a little bit closer. You may not be my best friend, but I may pick up your phone call.
Okay. I mean, I think that's fair. You know, I guess speaking on behalf of the man, I think that that's fair. I mean, I do think, like I said, I do think, I mean, in all seriousness, I think across the board, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a leader in a business, I think the thing that will help you the most at the end of the year is the fact that you already set expectations before the end of the year.
Right.
So then at the end of the year, you're talking about, hey, how do we measure up to what the expectations were set? And then I do think, like I said, I mean, although it's not my personal agenda, my personal drive, I mean, and I will say, even when working with other companies, I mean, I do attend the holiday party, not necessarily because I need it, but I do attend the holiday party to, you know, to be a part of adding to that culture. But I think that there are most people who do work in an environment. I mean, when they spend, you know, more hours actually with the people they work with than the people they actually live with, because most people spend like 8+ hours with the people they work with. They don't spend that much awake time with the people they live with. So it's like, you do want to make sure that, hey, it's an environment to where you do help create and facilitate that environment where they can develop that relationship.
Exactly. And it's not, we're not asking, you know, not saying that we do it every month or every quarter, but that one time of the year could be that single time where we can put aside work and just talk about things outside of work, because you either may not get to do it, you may not even want to do it, or it may help you understand people that you don't understand why they're so frustrated at work.
Yeah.
And then also, you like meet their spouse and you like, oh, I understand now. Don't worry about it. Here's your coffee. I got the coffee for you in the morning. Like you just never know what happens in situations like that. But I think that one time of the year is necessary.
Yeah, and I also think that as a leader, one of the things that you should definitely challenge your employees to do is to take some time to do some of their own personal reflection. Is encourage them to, I mean, I know the holidays and everybody's like, hey, spending time with family or doing this, is really encourage them to take some time for themselves to do some reflection on, you know, their personal goals that they have, their goals for the business, because I think that becomes the issue, I think, with a lot of people, whereas they finally get a break from work and then they just run into this rat race of doing all this, you know, all these, the holiday stuff or whatever, and they never really take a time to really, I guess, prepare for the next year to come. So come January, they're exhausted from working the whole year and then running the rat race of the holiday things, and they've never really taken time for themselves to be able to start off fresh, so they have clear perspective on, hey, what do I want out of this year to come? What's expected of me? And hey, how am I going to approach it?
I think that's phenomenal. And a great idea. And we, as the people, would appreciate an extra day of PTO so we can reflect on all that you have just said.